Friends of NRA is your chance to support our Second Amendment rights and preserve America's hunting traditions. Join Friends of NRA at one of our 600 exciting events nationwide. From games to auctions and exclusive firearms, Friends of NRA events are your chance to support a cause you care about while having a great time with patriots in your community. Whether you're a seasoned shooter, an avid hunter or outdoorsman, or passionate about freedom, there's a place for you within Friends of NRA. Visit friendsofnra.org to find an event near you. Stand up for freedom with the Friends of NRA.
Shopping is hard, right? But there's a better way. Stitch Fix Online Personal Styling makes it easy. I just give my stylist my size, style, and budget preferences. I order boxes when I want and how I want. No subscription required. And she sends just for me pieces, plus outfit recommendations and styling tips. I keep what I love and send back the rest. It's so easy. Personal styling for everyone. Get started today at stitchfix.com/Spotify. That's stitchfix.com/Spotify.
Welcome to DSC's Campfires with Larry Weissoon, a unique blend of hunting, fishing, wildlife conservation, and the outdoor lifestyle. DSC's Campfires is brought to you by DSC, Conservation, Education, and Hunter Advocacy. Hornady, accurate, deadly, dependable. Taurus, award-winning revolvers and pistols. Stealth Vision, high-tech, precision-driven equipment for the modern hunter. Mossberg, American-built, American-strong. Vineyard Max, deer attractants created for the aroma of success, game feeders, and other innovative hunting products. Red 55 Winery, signature wines from the Emmy Award-winning country artist Miranda Lambert, owned by Rick and Beverly Lambert.
What's up, brother? Hey, Mr. Randy Flannery, welcome to the DSC's Campfire Podcast. I understand you're up there in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, doing seminars. Is that right?
Yes, sir. Matter of fact, I just finished one.
I thought that might be the case. Tell me a little bit about what you're doing. Well, let's talk a little bit about the show up there. In years past, I had the opportunity to speak up there numerous times, and I was kind of planning on being there this year, and had some other difficulties come up, and those difficulties were even compromised because I ended up with the dadgum flu. So if I start coughing on you, bear with me, please. But tell me a little bit about the show up there.
Well, I think the show is better than ever, Larry, to be honest with you. John Bailey and the crew do an outstanding job running this show. And, I've been doing this show since 1983.
Oh, my goodness.
And you know what's amazing, Larry, is they ain't kicked me out yet.
No, they're pretty smart is what the deal is. They know the good people to have is what the difference is.
And they tell me I'm one of the most, like for the last 5 or 6 years, I've been like the most requested seminar speaker, which really makes me feel really good. But the show is run by John Bailey and crew, and it's really, since the NRA took it over, it is a far better show and really run well, and I don't have to tell you, it's the largest sportsman show in the world, and
it truly is.
And it's run very well, and I'm happy to say that I'm down to one seminar a day at the show. They had me doing 2 seminars a day, and then what happens is after you get done with your seminar, and people, of course, follow you out into the hallway and then all the way back to your booth, and by the time the day's over, you talk so much to people that when they had me doing 2 seminars a day, I talked out by Thursday,
I totally understand. I remember one of the last times I was there, I was helping work a booth in one of the hallways. It was between 2 of the larger areas going toward the seminar room. And I left that booth 45 minutes prior to the beginning of my seminar. And unfortunately, I was like trying to go upstream, I think, of people going one way. And it took me 50 minutes to get to the seminar area. So I know that the crowds can be absolutely fantastic there in terms of numbers. What's the mood of the crowd? I mean, we're seeing a lot of changes, of course, here, thankfully, in the USA, and what's the mood of the people there, particularly those who love the outdoors?
I wanted to remind you of one time years ago, you and me and Jim Zumbo
Yes.
went up to the cafeteria for lunch together, and we planned on being there just killing a half hour or so, and then it took us over an hour to get there, because of the crowd. Of course, everybody wanted to say hi to you, and I understand, but it took us over an hour just to get up to the cafeteria.
It absolutely amazes me about the crowds, and as I mentioned, with changes going on here in the USA, and from my perspective, I've yet to see one that I don't agree with, quite frankly. But what's the mood there as far as that you're hearing, as far as people getting more interested in the outdoors once again, and the opportunities that might exist coming into the future for more hunting and fishing?
I think, Larry, it is amazing, how people are so positive, where they've been so negative for the last 4 years. People are so positive, and it's almost like they're acting like there's been a big weight taken off their shoulders, and they got pride in America, and they're happy with the election results, and with President Trump being back in the White House and what he's doing, and people are planning. They're planning more trips, doing more fishing, planning on doing more fishing and hunting than I have heard since the last time he was in the White House, but even more so now, because I think the big difference now is he's got all the people behind him now.
He does. It was such a refreshing thing to wake up or to listen to the election results, knowing that a vast majority of people in North America, and particularly here in the U.S., and I think some of the others, even in Mexico and Canada, are waking up to some of the same type of thing. But to see that enthusiasm come back that has been lacking and trust in government and changes, so I can't see anything but good things. I've visited with a lot of different outfitters as of late, and everybody's telling me they're booking hunts left and right, and people are, excited about getting outdoors, and they're turning loose of a little bit of money because they see the economy coming back. And so all that's just very, very positive in so many different ways. I'll switch horses with you real quick. You're giving one seminar a day now, which I totally agree that, because my God, I know how you get swamped with people, and that's one of the reasons I'm so very pleased and proud that you're taking the time to spend time with us here around the campfire. But tell me some of the things that you're talking about in your seminars.
What they have me do here, because it's very popular with people, is tracking and stalking whitetails, and
yes,
I teach people how to do that, and I tell people that, the difference between the way my family hunts and most family hunt is we hunt the way your great grandfather hunted, and his father before him, and his father before him, because they couldn't afford to sit and wait for a deer to come to them. They had to put food on to feed their families. So that's what we do, and what's been really, really popular is I've gotten a big call, besides doing, our Learn to Track and Stalk hunt up at Wilderness Escape. What I started doing again that I haven't done in years is my son Scott and I are going to do a 3-day deer tracking and stalking school in June, and that's really growing legs,
I can only imagine. Tell me a little bit about that. Tell me about some of the things that y'all are looking at doing or instructing, but also informing people about.
Yeah, we're going to start off, Larry, with, number one, which of course, you and I have had many conversations over our long
Yes, sir.
most people don't know the difference between a buck track and a doe track, so we teach them how to be able to do that at a glance, and how to read a track, age a track, how to know what reading a track is like reading a book. So if you know how to read that track, that buck is literally telling you what it's going to do if you know how to read it. So we teach people that, and we teach them how to walk in the woods under all conditions, so you can walk up close enough to a deer to get a shot at them, and not jump them so you don't even hear them, never mind see them. And we, how to react to that buck when you jump him, whether he sees you first or not, so you can put yourself in a position to get a shot at him. And, we teach, because you got to be somewhat of a meteorologist too at times. So
yes, sir.
We teach them how to adapt to the conditions and when to go fast and when to go slow. And, we teach them how to stalk, and we teach them how to shoot fast and with rapid fire. And I don't know if you saw the post that's been out with Maine Knows How podcast, but they asked me to do an exhibition on how to shoot a lever gun fast, and that's all over.
I'm laughing because yes, I have seen it, and I mean, I think you work that lever faster than some of the old Remington semi-auto could work that action kind of thing, which is phenomenal.
yeah, that has literally gone viral,
as well as it should. I ask something about a couple of basic type things. You're hunting in snow conditions, icy conditions a lot of times, sometimes no snow on the ground. What about your boots? What kind of boots do you wear, or what kind of footwear do you wear when you're doing those hunts?
Well, I wear muck boots, and muck boots are a great boot. And
yes,
my dear friend Dick Bernier, he helped them design what they call Woody Max, and
yes.
I wear. And they're a great boot. They got good traction. They got good ankle support. Now, my son Scott, on the other hand, Scott wears Wolverines and he wears regular leather Wolverine boots, and that's only because, Larry, his calves are so big that
understood.
His thighs are 28.5 inches around, and his calves are so big that he can't wear any boots above his ankles. So,
my goodness, yes.
Oh yeah. Well, and brother, he is my guides call him the deer dragging machine. And God rest his soul, Dick Bernier used to say that if God ever made anybody born to drag deer, it's Scott Flannery, and we remind him of that fact on a regular basis.
Pardon me, I'm sure whenever there's a deer that needs to be dragged out.
Oh yeah, he's the guy.
I for years I hunted, of course, down here a lot in Texas, and where we had a tremendous amount of mesquite thorns and cactus, and so for the longest time down in this part of the world, I shied away from muck boots. But here recently, I've been hunting a whole lot more in the eastern part of the state, and I've fallen in love with those muck boots. To be honest with you, it took me. I've got big feet and they're wide feet, and it took me a while. I finally found a pair. Couldn't find anything on the internet or any place. Finally found a pair at a store in of all places, a little town in southern Louisiana. But I'll tell you what, I am really impressed with those boots, and particularly in hunting outside of where there are mesquite thorns and cactus thorns.
Yeah, absolutely. And as far as East Texas go, when I was guiding down in Texas, of course, I drove through East Texas quite a bit, and being a history buff, I've read all about Ben Lilly, and
oh yes,
being a bear guide for 40 years, in the big thicket country and all that stuff. And I've always been intrigued about going hunting down there, because if there's any place in Texas that reminds you of Maine, it's East Texas. And because you got so many evergreens and everything. And someday, the good Lord willing, I'd like to go down there and give that a try.
Yes, sir. We're having a little bit of difficulty here, folks, with sound. I'm on the phone with Randy. Hopefully, will correct itself. Tell me about some of your East Texas adventures.
Well, I haven't really had many East Texas adventures, but I want to do them. But I've had a lot of adventures in West Texas.
Oh yes,
in the Edwards Plateau, and in Benjamin and Guthrie and in Knox City and Childress, and that's all near and dear to my heart. Matter of fact, when I was asked to speak last year at the NRA convention in Dallas, which is a great honor, we took advantage of being in Texas, and we ended up staying for a couple of weeks, visiting some of the ranches I used to guide on, and some of our dear friends. And you know what, Sharon and I just absolutely love the state of Texas. We really do.
We need to see if we can't get you down here somewhere in that eastern part of the state. For years I've had hunted all of Texas actually, but I've actually in the last couple of years really spent more time in East Texas, and I want to. There's some really good whitetail deer there. They're extremely wary. There's of course a lot of wild hogs and squirrel hunting, and all those other kind of good things there as well too. But East Texas is kind of a sleeper. It's kind of like, when it comes to whitetail deer, it's kind of like parts of eastern Oklahoma as well too. And we need to get you down that way as well too. I do a little bit with the Choctaw Hunting Lodge. I'll visit with those folks about getting you down there sometimes, and we can spend a little bit more time up in that country, because it too is unique in the fact it has got a lot of rolling hardwood timber. I'm talking about rolling hills and that kind of thing, and a lot of it reminds me of some of that country I've seen in parts of New Hampshire and Vermont, and even a little bit of Maine as well too.
Sure. Well, listen, I'm all in. If you
okay.
any, and I've heard of what you and I've spoken about it many times. I've heard of Choctaw and how great a place it is and how great the people are, and I'm all in. And as we say just about every time we talk, any time we can get together is good time, my friend. So if we can do that, I'm all in.
We'll see what we can get done. Let's go back to the basics a little bit as well too. Tell me what kind of clothing you're wearing. And I know the answer, but I want to hear it from you.
Yeah, well, I wear wool. I dress light because I never stop. So I'll wear some dual fold underwear and just a sweatshirt over it. And I either wear wool pants or I wear waterproof fleece, which I kind of like better than the wool pants, because
right.
I'm always on the move and I don't want to overheat. I wear a traditional green and black buffalo plaid wool jack shirt or jacket, and that's about it, because I dress light, and I'll have a bandana in my pocket, so if my neck does get cold, I'll just tie a bandana around my pocket and around my neck, and to keep my neck warm. And once I get warmed up, I'll take it back off and put it in my pocket. I'm not a big fan of turtlenecks because I don't want to overheat and then have that freeze against my body if later on in the day,
I can understand that. I'm like you. I heat up fairly quickly when I'm walking, even slowly, and so I get tickled sometimes. I'll go on a hunt and everybody is dressed in 3 or 4 different layers of clothing, and I've got on maybe a light long underwear kind of thing, just a light shirt, and not a very heavy jacket, maybe a vest. And people go, "Aren't you going to freeze?" And I go, no, you're going to be wishing later on that you had somebody to carry all that clothes that you're going to be taking off, kind of thing, particularly if we spend any time walking.
Oh yeah. I have a picture of a buck that I got, and it was 251 dressed. That I
Oh
tracked.
my goodness!
I tracked all day, and I got a picture of it in my seminar. And I tell people, look at that picture and how light I'm dressed. I tracked that buck that whole day in 16 to 20 degree weather, and I never got cold because I was going the whole day. I was on the track.
Right.
And as far as overheating goes, Larry, I got a confession to make. If my mom or my grandmother ever found out how many sweaters I left in the woods from getting
Oh my goodness!
Oh, they would have killed me. You know?
I understand. I've left a few sweaters and light jackets, or even never a heavy jacket, because I always try to have to go back for it because I paid too much for it. But the other stuff, if I felt like I could replace it relatively easily, it got left as well too.
Oh yeah. Yep, been there. I've done it too. Yep.
Randy, tell me a little bit about your hunting season. I mean, we're just past. This will probably air. This is, I think, like February the 5th or 6th that we're recording, and it'll probably air in about a week or 10 days, maybe 2 weeks. Let's talk about your past hunting season, your whitetail season. What kind of year did you have?
We had a real good year. We had a real good year. Matter of fact, one of our guides, he's Howe, who is, his father's one of my best friends, and he's also an outfitter in the western part of the state. And
yes,
you know, Heath has been guiding for me for years. Matter of fact, he's been calling Sharon and I mom and dad since he was a little boy.
I love it.
Yeah. Well, we love him, and of course he grew up with a father who's a tremendous guide, and who's been one of my best friends forever. And he had a super year because he guided 7 people during deer season, and most of them were, I'd say 4 out of the 7 were on learn to track and stock hunts. And he did, we're talking northern Maine, brother.
Right.
You know the deal.
Yes.
You got millions of acres of wilderness. Well, he had such a good season that 5 out of his 7 people shot good bucks.
Oh my goodness!
And in northern Maine, that's saying something.
Yeah, that just doesn't happen normally. Good gosh, no.
Yeah. Well, he's that good. I mean, he's that good. And you know what? We have some really good guides working for us, and you know me, Larry, long time. I'm a stickler on detail, and
yes, sir.
We owe it to our clients to give them the best wilderness experience possible, and we owe it to the animal to make sure that we make good, clean kills, and even though we're trackers and stalkers and we're shooting fast, we always keep that in mind to do the right thing. And we have some really good guides working for us. We had a good season, and not only that, a lot of our hunters who come up on non-guided hunts,
right?
They've been up on learn to track and stalk hunts already, or they've been to one of our deer tracking and stalking schools, and they use that knowledge and them techniques that we have passed down to them, that we've taught them, and they're coming up now on their own, and they're having success as well, which is a wonderful thing. Matter of fact, with that video, that 1-minute video
right.
about me shooting fast, that's gone viral, Larry, you cannot imagine the messages, Facebook messages, and the posts, and the phone calls and the text messages that people have sent us, where it's so kind and so nice, where one guy put that I learned at one of your seminars. What I learned at one of your seminars, I used to kill a huge buck that eluded me for 4 years.
Oh my goodness.
You know, and other people saying I used techniques that I learned from you at your seminar. In the last 3 years, he said, I've shot the 3 nicest bucks of my life. You know, and
oh my goodness,
that's a wonderful thing. You know,
that is, and that being said, you know that you're having an effect on people in a very positive manner, and people are paying attention and they're learning, which is what we all strive to do in the long run. When you get right down to it, you know, we love to hunt, we love the outdoors, but we also want to try to advance the abilities and the capabilities and the abilities of others. And you're doing that exactly. Since you mentioned that, where can somebody go to see that particular video that you're talking about?
Well, there's the podcast is called Maine Knows How, and it's, you know, I just did it. Matter of fact, it just came out a few days ago. But it's called Maine Knows How. And it's actually with Bob Howe, who's one of my best friends, and his son Heath is the guide I was just talking to you about.
Oh, really? And yeah. He spells his name Howe, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, so Maine Knows Howe, right? Is that the right one?
Yep. Exactly.
Okay, perfect. We'll put that in our show notes as well, too, for people to go there. But since you mentioned the lever action thing, it is amazing to me the number of companies that all of a sudden have decided that lever action rifles might be a pretty good thing. We're starting to see a whole new crop of lever actions come into the picture.
And you know, there's some that are, of course, like Winchester and Marlin, that have been around forever. And you know, of course, I grew up into a family of jump shooters, and we hunted with lever action Winchesters for generations. Not that there's anything wrong with any of the other ones either, because they're all good, Larry. And I'll tell you, and I know you've got yourself a Rossi, and that's a really nice weapon as well. I mean, that's a really good gun. It's well made, and they're smooth. The action is smooth, and you know, I think the lever action is making. It's always been popular with trackers and stalkers, and with guides and bush pilots. But with your average hunter, the lever actions are making a huge comeback because you know, they're practical and they work and they don't jam and you know, they're pretty much indestructible.
They really are. As you're saying that, I'm here in my office, and in my office against my one wall, I've got several lever actions I'm looking at. One is a couple of them are old model 94s, Winchester and 30-30 that belonged to my father-in-law and my dad, and then next to it is a model 1895 30 Government Aught 6 that I finally found. Next to it is a Savage 99 300 Savage, which was the gun I used to take my first mule deer with. And then there's a Marlin there in a 4570, and then there's I think I'm looking at 3 or 4 Rossies that include a 30-30, a 44 mag, and a 454 Casull. And I've started using those particularly. I have an opportunity to take a lot of does. I have to take a lot of does on some of the places. And to me, even though I've shot some really nice bucks with those as of late too, I really have started using those lever actions and looking at doing hog hunts, but also have taken several whitetail deer with them. And it's fun going back, even though my eyesight's not what it used to be. You know, I'm shooting close range up to 50 yards or less, and my gosh, even there, I can shoot them accurately.
Yeah, and you know, all of them guns and all of them calibers that you just mentioned are all tremendous calibers. You know, they're very capable calibers that you can have confidence in. You know.
Absolutely. Like I said, to me, there's so much fun, and I've kind of reintroduced several other people here as of late. Now, I've said, hey, come go on a doe hunt with me, and I'll hand them a lever action. And they got guys said, okay, we're going to go to the range. If you're not familiar with it, unless we're going to shoot it through it, we'll run a bunch of Hornady ammo. And guess what? Next thing I know, they're going, now where can I get one of these? I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. Of course, we always shoot iron sights, Larry, because because it works for us. My grandfather, you've probably heard me say this before, but my grandfather was a character, and he was a deer slaying machine too.
Yes, sir.
But my grandfather always said, putting a scope on a lever action is like putting an elevator in an outhouse. It don't belong.
I do have to confess there is a scope on the Model 99 Savage, but it is it's the original scope that we put on it. I shot that first mule deer back in 1970, and then in the late 60s I bought, it actually was my brother's gun, but I bought a Weaver K4. And that Weaver K4 scope is still on that same gun, and it still shoots really well as well too with that scope.
Well, that's great, and it's funny you say that, Larry, because I just finished, just submitted a, over 4,000 word article to our friend Phil Macero for Gun Digest.
Oh, cool!
Yeah, Phil asked me to write an article on tracking guns, the best guns for tracking, and it's funny you say that because I mentioned the 99 Savage, which is a tremendous rifle, and I mentioned that if there's any lever action that doesn't lose its appeal by putting a scope on it, without a doubt, it's a 99 Savage.
It is, yes, sir.
Yeah, it's just fantastic gun and very, very accurate. Very, very accurate.
They really are. I know you've got people waiting to talk to you as well. I want to visit with you very quick a little bit about the upcoming spring and fishing opportunities there at your lodge, and then ask you a couple questions about fall bear hunting as well. But what's the fishing going to be like up there at y'all's lodge coming here before too very long, or it may be going on right now as well too?
Well, we usually get home. We usually get home after the seminar tour
yes.
in May, and so soon as we get home, we hit the ground running. I got to put docks in the water and get the boats and the outboards all serviced, and so right after we get home, because we usually start getting customers the week before Memorial Weekend. And from right then on, Larry, the fishing is really, really good. And then come the last week in June, I'll tell you how good it gets. The last week in June, Lance Dunham, the seminar speaker, one of the
right.
best fishing guides that I personally know, he comes up with a crew, every year, and some of them are manufacturers, like the manufacturers are the owner of Moner Hooks and the owner of Adams Crankbaits and Big Daddy Rods and a lot of the manufacturers. So they're real good at what they do, but there's usually anywhere from 14 to 18 of them.
Oh my goodness!
They hire a few of our guides, so two of them go in each. Two guys go with a guide every day, so there's usually 3 boats going with guides, and the rest of them, they'll fish on our lake. We fish a dozen lakes in the area, but they fish. The rest of them fish every day out on our lake. Well, every year they're there for a week. Every year, Larry, they catch and release. And this is hard to imagine, but between 2,000 and 3,000 smallmouth bass.
Oh my gracious, that's unheard of anywhere else.
Oh yeah. Matter of fact, one day, 2 guys in the boat, Lance Dunham himself and Randy Emmerich, who owns Big Daddy Rods, with my guide, Mike Congelosi. In one day, they caught 180-something smallmouth in one day.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
That truly is. Well, we'll let people know how to get in touch with you, in case I know there's a bunch of serious smallmouth fishermen out there, and a lot of people who want to be smallmouth fishermen as well too. We'll get to how to get in touch with you. Let's talk a little bit. You've got fall bear hunting coming up. When do you start working on that?
We start in the woods. We were starting in the woods in July, but where we lease so much land and have so many bear bait sites, over the last few years, we've been starting to work in the woods in June. So summer's really busy, because between some of my guides, guiding fishermen, either on the rivers or the lakes, and then other guides are in the woods working on bear baits sites, and I tell them every opportunity in the woods is an opportunity to scout. So you're not just working bear bait sites, you're looking for moose and deer and signs of moose and deer, and you're looking for rabbit covers and bird covers, and you utilize that time to know what's going on in the woods.
Oh my goodness! So it's never, with your operation, it's never ending.
Never.
You gotta love it. You gotta love it, by golly. Randy, what is the best way for someone who is interested in some of the things that we talked about, including the school and including the fishing and the hunting that you do? I know that you do bear hunting and whitetail hunting and occasional permits for moose hunting and a bunch of other things like that. What's the best way for them to get in touch with you to book a fishing trip, a hunt, or to learn more about your schools?
Wilderness Escape Outfitters, and our phone number is 207-448-3238.
Got it. And I will make sure that's in the show notes as well too. Randy, I can't tell you how much I truly appreciate you being with us. I know that you got people waiting to talk to you after the seminar, and you've got business to take care of. I can't tell you how much I truly appreciate you taking your time. The only other thing I'll ask is that you give that beautiful Miss Sharon a hug for me and tell her I still think she's the best cookie baker there is in the world.
Well, right back at you, and please give Miss Marianne a hug from me and Sharon, and we can't wait to get down there in Texas to spend some time with y'all.
And we'll visit about heading up to Maine later this year as well too. So, Randy, thank you. Tell everybody there at the show I said howdy, and wish everybody well.
Thanks. Right back at you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for joining us this morning, particularly to my special guest, Randy Flannery, a dear friend and one of the best, if not the best deer hunter there is, and at everything else that he does. We look forward to seeing you right back here again next week.
DSC's Campfires has also been brought to you by the Crown Bar in LaGrange, Texas, Texas Wildlife Association, Habit, Our Gear, Your Adventure, Double Nickel Taxidermy, and Burnham Brothers Game Calls.